And at that time in Morris Park was primarily, from my understanding in reading the history of the Bronx, Morris Park was a Jewish and Italian neighborhood. Is that accurate?
Well, there wasn't so many Jewish people living there when I was growing up. It was mostly Italian, Irish, Puerto Rican. That was the nationalities that are predominant in the Bronx at that time, at least my neighborhood.
Okay. And where'd you go to high school?
I first went to Mount St. Michael High School. I went to grammar school, Santa Maria Catholic School, for all 8 years. That's K through 8. First grade, my mother passed away of lung cancer. My father raised my sister and I. After Santa Maria, which was a great school, I went to Mount St. Michael, which was an all boy high school for a single year. That's where I got into playing football, wrestling. And after a year, I decided I couldn't do the all boys school any longer. And I went over to Lehman High School, which is a public high school, boys and girls, off of Westchester Square, East Tremont in the Bronx. And that's when I really started working out, started playing football hard, play wrestling, and
Did you
I
play
got
high
into
school
bodybuilding.
football?
Say it again.
Did you play high school football?
I played high school football, yes. And
Until
also played, I played first 2 years high school football, and I stopped because I got into bodybuilding. I started competing at 16 bodybuilding, and I like the single sport much better than team sports. And I did my first contest, Westchester Classic. I got third place,
we have
13,
have
17-year-old.
have some weightlifting, or we have you during that time frame when you were actively big into bodybuilding, I believe. And where would you go to the gym? Was this all done in the Bronx and everything like that? I remember you telling me stories about the gym that you went to, and didn't The Rock used to go to that same gym?
No, actually, the gym was called Butcher's Gym. It was on Brooklyn Boulevard in the Bronx. It was a great hardcore gym. I started when I was 16 with a friend of mine, Steve. We worked out there really hard, religiously, and that's when I started growing. And then I started doing more shows, and I was winning shows. This was all natural shows I would compete in at that time.
And how tall are you? Just so
I'm
we have a little.
5'8". I'm 5'8". At my
Okay.
biggest, I weighed about 235 pounds.
And what were you specifically competing in? Were you competing in
Bodybuilding.
bench? Yeah, I know, but were there certain aspects of it like deadlifting or
No, it's just
bench?
you have to be the leanest, the most proportioned, most muscular, and you will pose on stage and you be compared to other individuals of your near weight class, your weight and height, and you would win a certain, if you were good enough, you would be able to win that weight class and then compete in the overall.
So what was your weight class then?
I was a middleweight at the time when I was younger. That was it was a cutoff at 176 and a quarter pounds. Anything above that, you would compete in light heavyweight. I was a middleweight at that time. Then
Okay.
as I matured, got older, I compete light heavyweight.
Because I remember reading something that I believe it was Arnold Schwarzenegger said that if he was to grow one portion of his body, like let's say he wanted to get his thighs bigger, he would then have to proportionally get every other body part to be that much bigger as how much bigger he got his thighs. So he was proportional.
That's
So
right.
I've always been interested in bodybuilding even since I was a kid. So after, I don't know what it is about it. I guess it was the physique and it was the dedication, everything that went into it. I was told that when I was going through cancer at 5, that I used to get bodybuilding magazines, and I actually my mom got called down to the principal's office one time when I was like 6 or 7, and they said that I had inappropriate material, and it was bodybuilding magazines
Oh,
for
no, that's
6 year old.
crazy.
Yeah, because they would wear the very short, like very small underwear, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I guess there was females who were competing around that time. That was like the first time I think you would actually see females competing at that level. So I've always been interested in that as well. Just kind of died out when I started having kids and practicing law. So after high school, what is it that you did after high school?
After high school, I went to college. I went to Iona College. I studied to become a teacher. My major was secondary education, history. So I could teach history, high school. And during that time, I worked as security on the weekends for two separate places as a bouncer.
So you knew back then that you wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah, because when the bodybuilding, you don't really make money in bodybuilding. It's very difficult, and you're spending so much money just to try to place and do well. I knew I was decent and I could do well in like local regional shows, but to get on the national level and then become professional, it's so difficult and takes a lot of money, and
Also,
drugs are
a lot
involved,
of drugs. Yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah.
absolutely. And then after that, I know that you went through, you actually were a correction officer at one point, right?
Yes, that's true.
And
After
the
I
famous
graduated.
MDC, right?
Yeah, but first I worked in Florida. What happened was I graduated Iona College, 2 years. I got my 4-year degree, 136 credits within 2-year time frame. I went every single intersession. I took classes. I went over the summer full time. I even took classes out of the school at Purchase University, Westchester Community College, and transferred them in just so I could make that goal of graduating with 2 years. That was a goal I had. And I did graduate. I graduated cum laude with a 3.7 GPA, I believe. And
That's
then after that,
mhm.
yeah, I was hired because I had to take an extra course, a women in sport course, which was like a 2 credit class. I just needed 2 credits to get. So I finished up late September. And then late September, and I think this was 1998, I was hired by Young Women's Leadership. That was a school Oprah Winfrey and John F. Kennedy Jr. opened up in Harlem, Spanish Harlem, and I worked there as a gym teacher for a year. Then after that, I went down to Florida with my girlfriend at the time, and we moved to Orlando. And that's where I worked as a correctional officer first for Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Lake County, Lake Correctional Institute. Then from there, I transferred to MDC Brooklyn. I worked there.
And that's what we've been hearing a lot about in the news. And anyone who follows the legal field has seen and heard about just the complaints and the judge's rulings at a Brooklyn MDC. And with that, we're going to segue to our next step. So thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Right. So that, hang on, that was 10 minutes flat. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like that because it kind of gives an introduction. I'm going to start working on that.
Did it record? Can you check to see?
Two places. Hang on. I don't like your camera.